The Phillies lose a frustrating one last night, but more importantly, our pets' heads are falling off. Join us now for the PHLY Phillies podcast. Oh no. That's kind of...
One more time.
Oh no.
There you go.
It's kind of all there is to say about the ending to last night's game. I'm going to try my best, Tyler, to have some positive thoughts here that Brandon Marsh, pull up and seized on his hamstring the same way that Bryce Harper did, and his was on the minimal side of the hamstring problem. I'm going to try my best to mentally get to a place where Bryce Harper's only out 2 or 3 weeks. I don't think I'm going to get there, but I'm going to try.
You and I have been friends and have worked together for a long time now. One of the things I respect the most about you is you are the eternal optimist.
I try my best.
And when I see you in a down state, I'm like, oh shit, here we go. Did you ever wake up from a hangover or from a night of drinking with a hangover and you don't necessarily feel bad about how you feel bad about yourself? The decisions that you have that little pit of your stomach feeling. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel right now. I just have this gross pit of my stomach feeling. I woke up this morning and I was like, this is not great, Bob. And then I checked my phone and it said an hour and 45 minutes to get to work. That's because fitting. There was a tractor trailer on fire on 95.
It seems to happen a lot.
Yeah, it was just kind of a Friday to expect. The good news is they're 25 games over 500.
Yeah, so I think... all that matters with this Phillies team is the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
And that's still fine. It's not like we lost, Spencer Strider and Ronald Acuna for the year. We are having setback after setback after setback. Sure. But to this point, none of them are season ending. So you have to take that as a positive in this situation. Kyle Schwarber didn't seem as concerned last night, talking in the locker room after the game. The ideal situation here would be that Bryce gets, the Brandon Marsh kind of 3-week thing, and Kyle Schwarber maybe doesn't even go on the IL and just takes a couple games off and rehabs it and all that. Because if both of them go to the IL, you just lost all your pop remaining in the lineup until JT gets back. 30,000-foot view, the playoff picture is fine.
Sure.
The short term is going to be potentially brutal, but this team has answered the bell when guys go down this year. So you hope you can just kind of keep that going.
Yeah, I think your best case scenario is Schwarber's okay. He probably sits for, if he sits the remainder of the weekend, that's, good news. If he's back maybe a Monday, was it Tuesday? I think they play in Chicago. I'm going to say Tuesday against the Cubs. That would be ideal. I think Harper.
I'll be there.
You will be.
I'll be at Wednesdays.
So I think Harper positive outlook is 3 to 4 weeks, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think that's best case.
But I think that you could make the case that on a positive, like you said, like a living eternal optimist type of view, that this is less of a time crunch than we think. If I had to say which one is going to be more likely to be readily available quickly, it's going to be Kyle Schwarber. But I think that it sucks in the short term. And like you said, the 3,000-foot view is this team is still going to be a playoff contender and a World Series contender.
Yeah, so again, let's try to spin zone this as much as possible. The All-Star break, you have to get through 17 games.
Yeah.
The All-Star break is coming kind of at an ideal time here because as much as we don't want to talk about Taillon Walker.
This mic is so broken, by the way. I'm just sitting here just messing with it the entire time.
You got a limp stand?
It's not good.
They make pills for that, Tyler.
I'm sitting here with my neck craned.
Well, this raises. You can lift that up.
Wow.
There you go.
Game changer.
Yeah, there you go. So, Taillon Walker probably post All-Star break. JT Realmuto post All-Star break are likely outcomes there. Hopefully Schwarber doesn't miss a ton of time. And, this All-Star break is coming at kind of an ideal time for the way these injuries are stacking up. The thing that concerned me most last night was Bryce Harper saying, I've never experienced something like that.
Yeah, that's concerning.
Because that means it's pulled.
Well, I think that means it's going to take, like, I almost feel like if you've injured yourself before, like, let's say I've
pulled a hamstring.
Let's say you've pulled your hamstring before. You kind of know what to expect. When you've never done it before, it's kind of a weird scenario where I almost feel like you're a little bit ginger on it. You take a little bit extra time to get back. Like, the only thing that I ever had that was of substance, like I messed my knee up playing basketball. And for the longest time, I was told, like, you're fine. You can get back to lifting. You can get back to running. And, you just are kind of super ginger on it because you don't want to re-aggravate that injury. So that to me says that, they're probably going to play the cautious game. They're probably going to play the cautious game with Harper anyway, just because of the magnitude of
sure,
how important he is to this team. But I think that, you've got a guy who is probably set to miss somewhere in the 3 to 6-ish weeks range. You got to stay afloat. Keep your head above water. You stay, if you play 500 ball from now until the All-Star break, I think you can consider that a win.
Sure. Jim Salsbury is going to join us coming up here at 11:30. So now you have to deal with the ripple effects. Look, we don't know anything, but I don't think there's any scenario here where Bryce Harper isn't on the IL. I think best case scenario is Kyle Schwarber isn't. But I think Bryce is definitely headed for the IL. So now are the ripple effects of that. We got to get into who's coming up. What's this lineup going to look like? Who's playing first base? Is it a true platoon? Is Alec Boehm getting 50% of the time over there versus lefties? And maybe Cody Clemens does the other 50% versus righties, etc. But, Michael Marcato is now in a huge role.
Yep.
The lineup has a lot of questions to answer. Cody Clemens is nearing the end of his rehab start. Is he a name we see back up here? Is Johan Rojas potentially? He's had some really good numbers in his 10 days or so in AAA. Is he a guy that just comes back up because he has that major league experience? There's guys like Buddy Kennedy who are new to the system and kind of on fire at the Lehigh level. It's going to be – there's no great answers.
No. I mean, there was no great answers for a couple of positions on this team to begin with, right?
Sure.
We talked about platooning left field. We talked about platooning center field.
You already had 2 platoons.
They were pretty thin to begin with. Now, their upper echelon players are stalwarts, right? Your first baseman should be playing, close to every day. Your DH was playing close to every day. Your catcher prior to the injury with JT Realmuto was playing basically every day. Alec Boehm's been a revelation for this team. He's played pretty much every day at third base. So you were kind of thin depth-wise, and maybe not depth-wise. You were thin lineup-wise because you were playing mix and match with multiple positions. You're really going to be stretched thin now. Rob Thompson's going to have to be forced to get creative. And like you said, it really depends on who hits the IL to determine who gets the call-up. Because if it's just one of them,
if it's just one, I'd have to think it's Cody Clemens.
I would imagine it's probably Cody Clemens. If it's both of them, I would think Clemens probably Weston Wilson would get the call. Weston Wilson for his versatility, Clemens for the same thing, but Clemens can play multiple positions. He's a left-handed bat. Wes Wilson gives you a little bit of pop in the lineup if you need a guy. I think
29, he's a grown-ass man.
I think what you're going to find out about this might be a little bit of an overreaction, but I think what you're going to find out about these particular move sets, especially if it's both of them, what this organization thinks of Derek Hall truly. Because if it's both of them and Derek Hall doesn't get the call, Derek Hall's never a major league player.
Yeah, he's done here.
At least here. So to me, the likelihood is if it's one, it's Clemens. If it's two, it's probably Wilson and Clemens. I think Rojas would be an outside opportunity for me because I think they want him to get everyday at bats and to be able to work on some things in a comfortable setting. And a comfortable setting, unfortunately,
he's hitting over 400 down there.
Is right not now. Right? He's hitting the ball well, but a comfortable setting is unfortunately for him not a platoon,
a pressure cooker.
It's not a split, and it's not playing in Philadelphia every day. So to me, I think your options are probably Clemens 1, Wilson 2.
Yeah.
And then if you like truly just want to bring up a guy who you know can play center field, then it would be Rojas. But
Sure.
I don't imagine Rojas gets the call back up.
Defensively, you only
Right
have to replace the one position.
Correct.
So you need a bat. If they both go on the IL, you need a bat and a first baseman. Alec Bohm gives you that first base potential, as does Cody Clemens, as does Weston Wilson a little bit. He can also play some outfield, same as Clemens. So I think for that reason alone, the versatility, Clemens and Wilson kind of make the most sense here.
Yeah, I agree.
If they both end up on the IL. So we put together what this lineup could look like.
All right, I'm going to preface this by saying,
yeah. All right. So the next 3 games versus the Marlins, you're facing 3 right-handed pitchers.
Right. It's going to be a lefty-heavy lineup.
So let's start with this is a potential lineup that Tyler and I kind of concocted this morning.
This, by the way, is under the pretense that both guys hit the IL.
Yes.
Because I think for today's sake, I'm not sure they make 2 counter moves. I think if anything is going to happen today, Harper hits the IL. I don't think Schwarber will today.
And Clemens wouldn't be up tonight, so
Correct.
that would probably be
Whit
Merrifield.
Yeah. This is a long-term
Yes,
outlook.
this is, you got 17 games to get through until the All-Star break. So to split up the righty-lefty thing at the top of the order, we put Trey first, Bryson 2 to go righty-lefty-righty. I think Bohm makes the most sense in the 3-hole. Castellanos in the 4-hole, which Rob Thompson has already shown you he's not afraid to do.
No, and he's your last pop guy. Like,
sure.
Dahl towards the bottom of the lineup's got a little bit of pop against righties, but like I'm not putting David Dahl at 4. So really, realistically,
so the top 4 is fine.
Your options are pretty limited to, either Bohm stays at 4 and you slide somebody up, which I don't envision being the case, unless he decides he wants to go Stott at 3, which I also don't particularly envision. Bohm at 3 and Castellanos at 4 for the short term is probably your only option.
Yeah. So after the 4-hole, it kind of falls off a cliff a little bit. Hopefully Brandon Marsh can, re-find his first month of the season here. And look, the Phillies lineup has stepped up. Guys have stepped up when others go down. Nick Castellanos stepped up when JT went down. So hopefully Brandon Marsh is a guy that can step up here. Edmundo Sosa, there's a good chance plays some third base in this with Alec Bohm taking over some first base duties versus righties.
I think you're going to see Bohm play third. You're going to see Sosa play third. You're going to see Merrifield play third. You may see Clemens play some third. I know he started the one game against Toronto at third a couple weeks ago. You may see Weston Wilson if it's multiple. Like,
it's going to be a revolving door.
Yeah, it's going to be a patchwork thing for the next couple of weeks.
You want to be a fly on the wall in the analytics department these next 17 games?
No, I don't want to be anywhere near the analytics department. I want to be in Rob Thompson's office.
Well, because the analytics department is probably going to have a lot of input and say.
Yeah, most likely.
Because if you're changing your lineup nightly, you're basically going to be basing it off of the matchups.
Sure.
And what the other guy throws and your tendencies and putting guys in the best situations. So I'd love to be a fly on the wall between the analytics department and Rob. Hashing out this lineup on a nightly basis. And then you have Edmundo batting 6th, David Dahl batting 7th, Cody Clemens when he gets here maybe batting 8, or Rafael Marchand. Maybe you could put Marchand, since he's a switch hitter, at 8 and move Clemens to 9. You have some options there at the bottom of the order.
Yeah, that was really just to, you're splitting up lefty-righty as best as possible. Like, for example,
Marchand being a switch hitter is
the reason that we have Dahl in the outfield is like he's not a good defender. And the options are pretty limited unless you're going to use a Pache in the outfield, which you probably will see against left-handed pitching.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the lefty-heavy lineup against right-handed pitching, I think the best case scenario is if I can get Dahl out of the lineup defensively, I would like to. It doesn't solve everything. Like Kevin says, like Clemens is relatively new to moving to the outfield. It's not a perfect scenario. And that's why we continue to say, like, none of this is great. Like, in a perfect world, I'd love to have more faith in a Cody Clemens to be an everyday left fielder. I don't, because he's relatively new to it. David Dahl is serviceable, but I would like a defensive upgrade if you could. To me, that's just pick your poison. And I think Clemens' athleticism, even in an unnatural position, probably would have him vault Dahl as the defensive choice between the two.
Yeah, so there's your
None of them
lineup
are good.
potentially versus righties. I like this one better than the lefties, which we'll get to in a second. But let me tell you about some of our friends at Mortgage CS right now, because my own sister I referred over to Alec and Ben at Mortgage CS because that's how much I trusted them. I sat down, kind of got the overview of their company and their vision. And hook, line, and sinker, they had me. I said, Carolyn, you got to talk to these guys because you want them in your corner. Right now, it's a really competitive market. My sister was just looking at a house the other day that ended up going for over $85,000 more than its asking price.
Yeah, good luck.
And it was a fixer-upper. So you want some people in your corner that are going to, do the work for you and help educate and empower you along the way. And that's what Mortgage CS does. It's a mortgage concierge service. It's white glove. And Alec and Ben are going to make sure in this competitive market that you have rock solid pre-approval, and they're going to take time to explore anything you want, which is a novel idea, isn't it? And that's why Mortgage CS is the concierge service. Look, this is financing, not a marriage. Don't let the competitive rates and markets scare you off now. With Alec and Ben on your side, you can re-explore refinancing down the line and get what is best for you eventually. Don't let your dream house pass you just because it's a competitive market. Alec and Ben will work with you to make sure you save the most possible with them. There's a reason people win more with Mortgage CS. So call or text Ben right now. You can talk about Bryce Harper's hamstring if you'd like. He doesn't care. He's just there to talk. Even if you're not buying a house next week, he can get you ready. Start talking to him now. 267-391-7425. And you can see for yourself. You can also go to mortgagecs.com/PHLY, or you can check out over their 370 perfect 5-star reviews by searching Mortgage CS right now and tell them PHLY sent you. The advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS ID 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com for more information.
Yeah, you think Ben will talk about the outs above replacement for a Cody Clemens who's moving to a different position versus David Dahl playing in left field? Yeah, it'll be an interesting setup going forward. But what's even more interesting is the fact that you can find Ollipop just about everywhere that you get your traditional sodas, because they're in 30,000 retailers nationwide, including the most recent launch at all of the Wawa stores. And if you're in the Philadelphia tri-state area, there's pretty much a Wawa on every block or every other block. So you can find Ollipop everywhere that you would get your traditional sodas. But unlike traditional soda, Ollipop has only 2 to 5 grams of sugar and 9 grams of fiber per can. You've heard me talk about the grape Ollipop because it is my favorite one. If it's here, I'm going to drink it. If it's not here, I drank them all. And I've had Chris and all of our people behind the scenes order us some more because they are absolutely delicious. Listen, we all grew up with soda in the house, right? Whether it was your traditional sodas or your iced teas or whatever it was that are just absolutely loaded with sugar. And you realize as you get older that you can't intake as much sugar as you used to, right? Your metabolism might have slowed down a little bit. You're not you're playing 6 sports like you did as a kid. And the sugar kind of gets to you after a while. And that's why if you want to get the soda taste without dropping, without having to drop soda, but you can also drop the sugar, Ollipop is for you. 90% of Americans consume more than the USDA daily recommended amount of sugar per day, which is 30 grams. Your average soda can have up to 29 or 30 grams of sugar in it by itself. So get in on the Ollipop craze that is sweeping the nation. And you can find Ollipop at 30,000 retailers nationwide. And you can get online to get your Ollipop as well. Use the promo code PHLY20 for 20% off your next Ollipop order. Now, this discount does apply to one-time orders only, not subscription orders. Ollipop is sold online at drinkollipop.com. You can also find it at Amazon. And again, 30,000 retailers nationwide, including Wawa, Target, Sprouts, Wegmans, ShopRite, and GoPuff. So get in on some Ollipop. Get the grape one. You won't regret it.
All right, let's take a look at the lineup potentially versus left-handed pitching that you won't see this weekend. Yeah, this one is probably worse. Pretty much the same top 4 there as we went through. We moved up Edmundo Sosa into the 5-hole because obviously maybe Weston Wilson could take the 5-hole if he's in the lineup. But you obviously don't want to have Marsh versus lefties in the 5-hole.
I put Marsh in there because at some point, one of the 2 lefties that Rob Thompson doesn't particularly truly trust is going to have to play.
Bryson Stott is going to have to play.
The likelihood is it's probably more Stott than it is Marsh.
Yes.
Marsh has really, really struggled against lefties. But I can't imagine a world where if Bryce Harper misses a ton of time and Kyle Schwarber does as well, which I think we're all hoping isn't the case. But if it is the case, like Brandon Marsh can't not play against lefties at all.
Yeah.
But I think if you're picking between the two,
It's definitely Stott.
Stott's the one that's going to play more.
Yeah, we would think Stott is mostly a constant. Maybe occasionally Merrifield gives him a day off, but like...
Yeah, I think you're going to see a decent chunk of Whit Merrifield
unfortunately,
in the next couple of weeks.
But this 5 through 9 in the order is definitely much worse. Edmundo Sosa in the 5 hole, potentially Weston Wilson or Marsh in the 6 hole, and then again, maybe Wilson or Merrifield, depending on what you want to do. Marshawn Stubbs catching, and then Christian Pache probably gets the center field starts versus left-handed pitching.
Have you seen the live action Grinch movie with Jim Carrey?
Yes.
You know the scene where he's going through clothes and he can't decide what he's going to wear, and he goes, hate, loathe entirely. Yeah, that's how I feel about this.
Yeah, it's not great. That's the reality.
That's it. I'm not going.
Yeah, we're going to talk to Jim Salsbury.
We're not playing.
Coming up here about, what those potential moves could be and what these lineups are going to be. But the reality is you're going to be without Bryce Harper. Hopefully Kyle Schwarber can dodge a bullet here. But I'm not very optimistic.
No, I think the hope is Schwarber's back
in a week.
2 weeks. Yeah, a week.
10 days. If he's a 10-day trip to the IL.
So the issue is
he felt
if it's a week,
pretty good about it.
Do
last
you
night.
Put him on the IL because you're only able to retroactive that IL stint to yesterday. So it's really, even if you put him on the IL today, it's still a 9-day IL.
Well, the reason you would put him on the IL is just to get the extra roster spot.
That's what I'm saying.
So I would.
It depends on how he's feeling. Like,
true.
If he's 4 days, like I said, if he's ready to go for Chicago, then you wouldn't. You're just not going to give him up for 9 days when you know he's back in 4.
Yeah.
If he's not ready until like next Saturday against Atlanta or the following Monday against the Dodgers, I think, are the following Monday.
Yeah.
Then you probably would put him on the IL, but he's the questionable one to me. I'm like 99% assuming Bryce Harper's probably going to hit the IL.
Oh, he's definitely hitting the IL. I don't see any situation he's not. With Schwarber, though, it might be one of these situations where they want to protect the athlete from themselves. And
that's fair.
Being a muscle, just be safe rather than sorry. Because, especially the hamstring, it's one of those things, as soon as you think it's ready, it's not.
Yeah.
And the groin, and Kyle's what, now 32, 33?
Well, and then
just give him the extra 3 or 4 days rest.
The other muscles tend to overcompensate. So, like, do you rush the guy back with a pulled, hamstring? Is he groin or is he hamstring?
He's groin.
So a pulled groin and maybe the hamstring goes with it, or maybe you have a quad issue or a glute issue. Like these, soft tissue injuries are really difficult to predict because they're so unpredictable, right? So like, there's a possibility that you're right, and it's just saving him from himself type of thing, and it's saving him from over strenuous activity before he's ready. Yeah,
and this is the luxury of having a huge division lead early in the season. If you're neck and neck with the Braves right now or the Mets or whoever, this is a much worse situation.
Yeah, and that's why I see a couple people in the chat that are like, they're going to be fine. I totally agree.
For the playoffs, yes.
I totally agree.
I think the next 17 days is going to be...
It's going to be tough.
At best, if you can get 500 ball, that's a win.
Yeah, so what do they have over the next 17 days? 15 games, I think, because they're off on Monday. And then I want to say they have one more off day between now and the All-Star game.
Yeah, because you can skip that 5th spot in the rotation, and we'll see when Michael Mercado actually comes up.
I think they have 15 more games. If you can
So they're off Monday. And then the next off day is the following Monday.
Right.
Yeah. And then you have the break. July 14th is your last game. And that series is against the Athletics.
So you have 15 more games to play between now and the All-Star break.
Cubs, Braves, Dodgers, Athletics.
If you can go either 7 or 8, 8 and 7, I think that's
a success.
That's a win.
Absolutely.
You start talking about 3 and 12, then we'll reevaluate. But
3 and 12. But hello, Chicago White Sox.
But
what's it going to take for Luis Robert?
I think the likelihood is if you can get out of this 15-game stretch somewhere in the 7 and 8 or 8 and 7 range, you'll finish the first half with 6. Would you get to 60 wins if you win 8?
Yeah, right. You're at 54 right now.
So they're at 53.
53.
So if you win 7, you get to the
I think I went to 54 last night because they should have won that game.
Correct. Yeah, right. But so if you get to 7 and 8, you get to the All-Star break at 60 and 36. If you would have told me that this team was going to come out of the gate at 60 and 36, I would have been thrilled. it wouldn't have mattered how they got there. And quite frankly, it probably still doesn't matter how they get there, because if you do go 7-8, I'm totally okay with it.
Yeah. Momentarily, we'll be joined by Jim Salsbury, and we'll ask him a lot of these same questions. Now, Michael Marcato's first spot in that schedule, I would imagine, comes next weekend if they skip it the first time around. And then Wheeler would probably come out on Tuesday, correct?
So it's...
Yeah, Wheeler would be Tuesday, and then Michael Marcato would be the 5th game after.
So it's Sanchez tonight. We'll talk about the probables later today. But it's Sanchez, Ranger, and Nola are this weekend.
Yeah,
and then because so
then Wheeler's on regular
pitched
5
on the
days
27th,
rest
and the
on
next
Tuesday.
time he'll pitch is the 2nd.
So Michael Marcato's probably next Saturday or Sunday is the first time you'll get a look at him. I would think,
because then they play 6 in a row. So you would have to have Marcato in the lineup or in the rotation at some point. So you're talking about Wheeler, Sanchez, Nola, Suarez. Right. So it's probably Saturday.
Yeah.
And then Wheeler closes out the series on Sunday.
And Michael Marcato's got a huge opportunity here. And then we'll see. We are going to have to go back to Taillon Walker life at some point.
Sure.
He's paid $18 million. They're not just going to old Yeller him out back and DFA him yet.
Well,
maybe in the offseason.
Not with Turnbull
no.
projected, especially with what he's projected to miss. And when they say 6 to 8 weeks,
he's done. I mean... I don't want to be the Grim Reaper of injury news here.
Remember too,
but shoulders with pitchers that have an injury history.
The one thing that it's kind of like when you have a bye in the NFL schedule. Like when somebody says, "Oh, that player's out for 5 weeks, but there's a bye," you're only missing 4 games.
Yeah.
So in reality, if Spencer Turnbull misses 6 to 8 weeks,
1 week is the All-Star
break. It's really only 6.5 to 7. You know what I mean? Because the week of the All-Star break, they have 4 days off. They play the A's on Sunday, and then they don't play the Pirates again until Friday. And so that buys you a bulk of a week. And I'm not saying that you're gonna rush this guy back.
I'll be shocked if we see him.
I think you're going to see him. I mean, unless something happens where they said this is...
I feel really bad for the guy.
Yeah, it sucks.
He in the locker room the other night, he was like, I don't know what it is about Detroit. I just can't stay healthy.
Yeah, it sucks because he was pitching
and
well.
of all places to go back home, home where he
began his career.
Yeah,
right.
That's really just a pretty shitty thing to say.
Yeah, and so for all of these guys' sake, the All-Star break is going to be significant to recoup, get a little R&R, get away for a couple days, especially guys that maybe were considered to be all-stars, like for Bryce Harper, for example. He'll make the all-star team. And then, he already has made the all-star team. And he's not going to play, I don't think. But to get that basically 5-day stretch of time off, I think that's significant for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, it is. Man, these lineups are just not going to be nearly as fun leading up to the All-Star break.
No, it's going to be.
Because Bryce Harper was so locked in last night.
Sure.
Hits one off the wall, just misses a home run. The dude
he's been locked in for the entire, basically the entirety
hit almost
of June.
400 in the month of June.
Yeah, he was sensational. We talk about June Schwarber.
He's going to win NL Player of the Month, back-to-back months.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about June Schwarber and how good he's been over the course of his career. June Harper this season was sensational.
Yeah, and his streak of continuing to not represent the Phillies in the All-Star game, despite being an All-Star caliber player and an MVP during that time, is really some cruel stuff that's going on.
Hey, you know what? I will take the MVP and a World Series appearance and an NLCS appearance over
but
All-Star
I feel bad
appearances.
for the guy because he's the NL leading
there's some
vote-getter.
really bad players who have been All-Stars over the years. Go back to the early 2000 Pirates and pick out any one of those guys. Paul Maholm, Zach Duke. You could go back to some really bad teams that have made some All-Stars. I'll take the inverse.
Yeah, so let's welcome into the show now our good friend Jim Salsbury, who joins us. Jim, last night went from a potentially frustrating loss where I was screaming for robo-umps in my basement, or at least a challenge system, to forgetting all about the game and now just worried about Bryce Harper's hamstring. I don't see any situation. He's not on the IL here. What's next internally?
It actually wasn't a frustrating loss. That was a game they should have won.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they got sloppy. It was a missed call by the umpire. It cost Zach Wheeler a win. And then it went from bad to worse when you see your best player grab his hamstring. You see Schwarber go out of the lineup, who's done a really good job leading off for this club. So two potentially significant injuries. I think we're all a little more optimistic that Schwarber might not be serious. But Harper's undergoing tests today to see what things look like with that left hamstring, and just the way he described it, and the suddenness with which he grabbed that area. It really told you that it was an acute issue, maybe a pop. He certainly felt something in the moment, and that's never good news. And I agree with you. I would have a difficult time believing he doesn't end up on the IL. I don't even want to think how long he could be out, but I think they're going to be without him because I tend to, I've seen this before. They err on the side of caution, even for something minor. So you could be without him for several weeks. I think that would be a very positive if it's only a handful of weeks or a month.
So under the assumption that there's at least one IL stint coming, and it likely being Bryce Harper, to you, who would be the next man up? Who would be the call up if you were making the call?
Oh, so you're just talking the roster spot?
Yes.
Well, I think they could activate Clemens from the IL and from his rehab stint and bring him. If they need two people, you could see Rojas come back pretty quickly. I think he's done a pretty good job since going down. You could see a guy like Wes Wilson come, but I tend to think Clemens might, be the guy in the short. Derek Hall could be in play at first base. He hasn't had a Derek Hall type minor league production season. He hit a home run last night. He did a pretty good job filling in for Harper in 2022. He filled in at first base, if you remember a little bit.
Yeah.
And played some first, hit some home runs. I think he hit like 9 home runs. So he could be in play. I don't know which way they're going to go, but Clemens has been a pretty good contributor this season for this club in terms of, maybe plugging at first base with some type of a platoon. But they could need another spot as well if Schwarber needs time.
So, Jim, luckily they only lose defensively one player if both guys go on the IL here. First base, is this fair to think we're going to see Alec Bohm versus left-handed pitching there and maybe Cody Clemens or Derek Hall versus righties? Is it going to be a true platoon at first? Is that what you see going forward?
That's kind of the feel I would get just because of the personnel you have and the track record. I mean, you could see Merrifield get some ABs against left-handers, maybe as a way to get him going, get him some more reps. He's got to give you something. It's getting to be that time where you got to get something out of him. Eventually, you're going to have to make a call on him if he's going to be around for the long term. Once you get to October, you need to put the best players on the field. So maybe some at bats would help him. But yeah, I kind of see a platoon. I think Alec Bohm could go over there. And I think you could see maybe some Sosa at third base. There's a guy on the 40 named Buddy Kennedy who's been raking up at Lehigh since they picked him up in a small trade. Maybe he could be part of a platoon, play some third base. You could see Clemens over there against righties. So I would think it would myself or Hall, it would be some type of a platoon. Rob Thompson's going to have to do some juggling, and they're going to have their antennae out for the hot hand, because I think that is very important when you're trying to show the resilience they have in overcoming injuries. You tend to ride the hot hand, and the hot hand deserves to play. We saw it with Sosa. I think a lot of us thought that he would only maybe be part of the puzzle when Trey Turner went down, but he was more like a significant part of the puzzle at shortstop because he played so well and he earned the opportunity and he swung it really well. So this might be an opportunity to get him in the lineup a little more at third base while they try to, muscle through this setback. And, all eyes are on later today when we find out how long of a setback it's going to be. It's too bad. As you guys were saying, he's probably looking at his second consecutive player of the month, Bryce Harper. We're looking at going to the All-Star game for the first time as a Philly. And he's been, you could argue the best player in baseball since May 1. So it's a big loss.
So I think it was 8 days ago, Jim, that the three of us sat here and said, it's a little too early to talk trade deadline. I think that those processes are a little bit further down the line. But now kind of looking at what these injuries have provided to the Phillies, do you think that this expedites the timeline in any capacity? Like, I know that it takes a second team to get involved,
Right.
but internally, do you think it expedites that timeline at all?
I think it all depends on the opportunity that's presented them, the player that they believe they could acquire. Because I think if they believed it was the right player and was going to help them, they would act on that more quickly, even if everybody was healthy. But I don't see either one of these injuries or potential injuries, Harper and Schwarber, as something they're going to go out and look to fix on the trade market. I think they were looking for another bat anyway. I think they're looking for more relief help anyway. If maybe there's an area that they feel they need to include in the list of potential trade deadline additions, upgrades, might be starting pitching. I mean, they've lost 2 starters this week. I know they're the back end, but they've lost 2 starters. And that eats away at your depth, and depth is obviously crucial. They're going to insert Michael Marcato into the rotation. So, I mean, he's a depth piece from AAA that's going to come up. I don't know if they could skip his turn on Monday because of the off day, but eventually here in the short term, he's going to need to be in there. And, I know Tyler Phillips has thrown pretty well, local guy down at Lehigh Valley. Colby Allard's there. He's on the 40, pitched better lately after a rough start. David Buchanan, all those are depth pieces, and now you're into that depth. So they may have added, starting pitching depth to their potential trade discussions that they're currently having, and I'm sure they've been having for weeks. But I don't know that it makes you put the pedal to the metal on another hitter, because I think they needed one anyway.
Yeah, I'm a big Luis Robert guy. I'm not going to shut up about him until for 32 more days, Jim. So you're going to have to deal with that. I'm sorry. So Michael Marcato,
you have to give up a lot. You're going to have to give up a lot to get Luis Robert, and you're going to have to hope he stays on the field.
Yeah,
but I agree with you. He's a pretty dynamic talent, and he's under control. So it's something I'm sure they're considering, depending on how Harper and Schwarber, how long they're out, how healthy they come back. That could dictate whether they're looking, kind of a around the edges bat, complimentary bat, or a stud bat like him.
Yeah, Michael Marcato has a pretty huge opportunity here. We just went through the schedule. Zach Wheeler, we assume, would start on Tuesday, as you alluded to there. And it looks like Marcato could potentially go next Saturday or Sunday. Now, right before his call-up, Jim, he was stretched out to 91 pitches, I believe it was. Is this something where he's going to be a 3-4 inning guy and you're going to have a little bit of a piggyback situation? Obviously, it depends on the results, but what can we kind of expect from Michael Marcato's starts?
He gave him 6 innings his last start, which was at AAA. Basically, he's averaged 5 innings, just under 5 innings to start at AAA. So I'm thinking if you can get 5 good ones out of him, I'm on the phone to the bullpen. You get him some run support and 5 good ones, I'm shaking his hand. If maybe he can inch towards 6, I might give him a high five too. So I'm not expecting a ton, but get me through 5, kid. This is an opportunity you've been waiting for. He's got a good arm. He's overcome a serious injury. It's a really good story, and it becomes a better story if he becomes a strong contributor. I mean, when you have injuries, it creates opportunities for other guys to make a name for themselves. I remember in 2007, Kyle Kendrick came up from AA as an emergency start. Was only supposed to stay 1 start and then go back to AA. And he ended up winning like 21 games over 2 years for them. There was an opportunity, and he filled it and did well. And he didn't light up the radar gun, and he didn't give him, complete games. He was just steady, getting him through 5, getting him through 6. Be steady. I think that's all you want to get from Michael Marcato, but they got to get him some run support. Now, it's a little different now without 2 big guns, without Schwarber and Harper. It's going to hurt their run production, and that's going to put a little more pressure on the pitching staff. And but thank goodness the big 4
Seriously.
Yeah, thank goodness. You know what I'm saying. That's what this team is built on, and thank goodness they're out there grinding out innings and grinding up opponents. And you look at last night, Zach Wheeler, man, he should have had a victory.
Have you, when you see a vet like Zach Wheeler act like that, does the old school baseball guy and Jim Salsbury hate the idea of a challenge system and the ABS system? Or does a situation like that where the game could have been completely different, and granted, he did benefit maybe some calls the other way throughout the game, does a game like that last night make Jim Salsbury want a challenge, a robot system?
Well, I certainly don't want 100%, but I actually don't mind the idea of a challenge system like they've been using in AAA. Um, because now it brings some strategy into it. Okay, especially if you have a limit on it, how many pitches you can actually challenge as a pitcher, how many pitches you can challenge as a hitter, it becomes very strategic, and it could add actually a strategic, kind of dramatic, interesting element to the game. Tap your helmet.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get a challenge on that. I wouldn't have a problem with that because last night Zach Wheeler was clearly upset. He walked off the mound. He barked a little bit at the umpire. Definitely let the umpire know he wasn't happy, and he shouldn't have been. That was one pitch can really change the complexion of a ball game, and everybody wants to have it right. I think the umpires want to have the call right. The teams want to have the call right. The fans want to have the call right. And now there's a TV in every corner of the ballpark. I mean, everybody has one at home, or one or two at home they're watching the game on. But everybody in the ballpark as well. There's TVs hanging from the underpinnings of the stadium, the upper deck. There's TVs behind home plate. There's TVs in the press box. There's TVs at the concession stand. It's like the whole ballpark knows that this call, which umpiring is tough. You got to make these calls in real time. That pitch is coming in at 95 miles an hour, and it's moving, this way, that way, and this way. It's a tough job. Now everybody can see it, and everybody's an expert because they have the box and they have the TV and they have the benefit of letting the image of the pitch be absorbed by their retina for 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds and say, "Oh, that umpire stinks." Well, the umpire doesn't get that advantage. He has to make that call just like that. So I'd be in favor of a challenge system because it is about getting the call right. And I think it could be quite strategic. Does Zach Wheeler want to go here on that pitch, or does he want to wait? It might add a little more fun even to it. But I don't blame Zach for being. He's a great competitor. He's tough, and he was upset, and that was a game changer. But then his defense fell apart behind them. They got very, very sloppy. It was a tale of two games. They got very sloppy, and they let an inferior team hang around and bop them over the head.
Yeah. Last one for you, just on the subject while we're on it. Over the winter, MLB actually took away the pitch zone on the tablets in the dugout. Now it's been reinstated. If the challenge system, it's not going to be here next year, but I would imagine maybe the year after it becomes a even more serious debate. Is the umpires union going to fight this because of the potential of their guys looking bad, or are they kind of powerless in this type of decision?
I don't think the umpires union has nearly as much juice as it used to have back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, 98, the union fell apart. I mean, they have an association now, but it doesn't have the teeth that it used to. I think if Major League Baseball wants this thing, they'll talk about it with the umpires, but Major League Baseball will get what it wants. I mean, I do hope it's not like we're going to spend 3 seconds in the dugout analyzing this tablet about whether we want to tap the head. I'd like to see it kind of an in the moment instinctual thing by the hitter, in the moment instinctual by the pitcher, and get over with really quick. But that's kind of where I see it.
Yeah. All right. Jim, by the way, out of curiosity, I know you're a affection for Wawa Hoagies and Hoagie Fest. What's your go-to hoagie order here?
Wow. I probably would go turkey.
Honey smoked or regular?
I like the honey smoked. I'd probably go honey smoked with pepper jack, lettuce, tomato, pickle, onion.
Strong.
Yeah, that's a go-to. But sometimes I go off the reservation. I do like maybe a few jalapenos or some roasted reds.
Spicy Jim.
Yeah, it depends on the mood I'm in.
One of my tricks there is to hit the tomatoes with the oregano and grated parm on top. Nice little kick.
Yeah. Also, don't sleep on the south. I think it's the Southwest Chipotle panini. Not bad. They got this like Chipotle sauce. I've had them all.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think the best thing that Wawa does is the turkey club. Their club sandwich is on point.
And they've added French fries. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a good
Well, happy Hoagie Fest to you, Jim. Thanks for joining us. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll catch up again next week.
Yeah, great talking to you guys.
All right, see you, Jim. There he is, Jim Salsbury. Make sure you're checking out his work on allphly.com. He's writing for us some great stuff.
So Jim brought up the potential of adding starter depth, and my ears perked up.
I was going to ask him, and I meant to. The way I view it, now I'm very dumb.
Don't sell yourself short.
Taillon Walker's coming back.
You're super dumb.
Yeah. Why? Because unless it's like a really low level person, but then that person has to be like above a Phillips or a Marcato. That whoever, if you were to trade, and Jim doesn't say that just like out of nowhere, they're not going to help you in the playoffs.
So one name jumps out to me. I'm going to throw a scenario out to you real quick. I know we got some business to take care of, but what's the type of player that Dave Dombrowski likes to acquire?
Guys that throw gas with some funky movement.
Okay, so how about none of that? But how about a guy with a year of arbitration control next year?
That's probably.
How about a guy who's probably a 3 on a bad team and he's your 5 on this team?
So you're saying he could be a good bridge to Painter?
Yeah, because he's arb control for next year. He's making $6.5 million this year. Probably will make 9-ish next year, I would think, because he's having a decent year this year.
Who do you got?
Cal Quantrill.
Interesting.
DFA'd by the Guardians last year because of their surplus of pitching. Picked up by the Rockies, having a really nice year. The metrics tell you that maybe he's due for a bit of a regression because his chase rate's low, his whiff rate's low. He doesn't strike out a lot of hitters. He doesn't throw particularly hard, but he doesn't get barreled. He's missing bats, and his ground ball rate's about 48%. It would add to a list of ground ball pitchers on this team between Suarez and Sanchez, particularly, who I think this guy could be.
Does he have pen experience ever?
That I don't know. No, well, not in the last 3 years.
Okay.
Every appearance he's made, he made 32 starts in 2022, had a 3.3 ERA, was really good for Cleveland that year, was not very good for Cleveland last year, posted a 5 ERA. He's 6-5 in 16 starts with a 3.5 with, and he's pitching in Colorado with a 3.5.
But my thing about getting a starter is I don't think they're going to be in a playoff series. Like I'd rather almost just roll the dice with Marcato and Taillon and go get a Luis Robert.
This to me is not about the playoffs. This is about getting to the playoffs. And not to say that they're not. What I'm trying to say is if I can,
but Taillon is
he's so much better than Taillon Walker.
Yes, but Taillon Walker is getting paid $18 million for the next 3 years. Like that, unfortunately, is a factor in this. And
of course it is.
When Taillon's at his best, the thing he does best is eat innings and go 5 or 6 for you, and you typically keep you in a game. So if the blister thing was real and his splitter can become better, I don't know. To me, it doesn't make a lot of sense to go get another starter.
With him specifically, it's weird to me, and we've talked about him plenty. Like the numbers are not good. The first inning numbers are bad. The one thing I find
not that I like that decision, by the way.
The one thing that I find ridiculously hard to believe is that his splitter, which was one of his more effective pitches over his career, just all of a sudden sucks. Right? Like,
I think he's cooked. Yeah, I'm with you.
So like, I don't think that's the one pitch that if you were to say he could get a pitch back, I think the splitter could find a way back into form if this blister thing is a legitimate thing. But it's so weird to me that he goes from that being his best pitch, his most used pitch in 2023, even in a bad year, his best pitch, to being like legitimately the worst pitch of qualified pitchers in all of baseball.
Yes, and when they signed him, it was the second best splitter in Major League Baseball.
Right, that's what I mean. Like, what the hell happened?
So he fell off a cliff. I mean, I fear that he's cooked, but I think reality to me is if you have a limited amount of assets to go upgrade this team, I don't think a fifth starter makes a whole lot of sense.
That's fair.
But Jim and others know better than me.
Sure.
Because I don't think that starter is going to help you in the playoffs. And to me, I understand your point, but it's all about the playoffs.
Of course it is.
Whatever trade you're going to make is about the playoffs. So if Cal Quantrill can't, help you out, maybe some long relief, low leverage spots, then I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, so to me, he would be your long reliever out of the pen. Probably not in the. That would be the problem, is he would have to make the roster.
And that's the thing. The bullpen is pretty.
You don't need him. You don't need him in a 5-game series.
No,
you could use him in a 7 as your long man, but
then again, I'd rather just have Lou Bob. But I'll tell you what does intrigue me, and that's Miller Lite. Miller Lite and the Phillies go hand in hand. Miller Lite and my life go hand in hand. Whether I'm out on the golf course, barbecuing out on the back deck, going to a Phillies game like I am on Sunday with the fam, I'll just get me a Miller Lite tall boy. I think ring the bell. I think crack a Miller Lite. It's the original light beer since 1975. Until this day, it's still the best one. A lot has changed since 1975. But the great taste of Miller Lite has not, because they hold on to what matters most and they get rid of all the stuff you don't need. It's a light beer that tastes like beer should taste. What a novel idea. Less filling and only 96 calories. The original light beer since 1975. And you don't have to choose what's best. Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/PHLY Phils, or you can pretty much find it anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
And one of the things about Miller Lite that's the best is having Miller Lites with some friends. And when you go to allphly.com, you can find all of our events to enjoy a Miller Lite with me or Jamie or Brenna or Renee, who's not here today. But whoever it may be, you can enjoy a Miller Lite with us because we have a ton of events going on this week. We had the NBA draft party with all the NBA, the PHLY Sixers team. It was a big success down at Garage North in Fishtown. And tonight, the Flyers draft. Yes, I know Matvei Michkov has kind of taken the world by storm.
Matvei Michkov!
And I'm not sure if the Flyers move up today or not. I think that there's been talk that they are going to try to get into maybe the top 10, and we'll see. But regardless, if they don't get into the top 10, if they stay where they're picking, the Michkov excitement has taken this team by storm. And you can head on over to Chicky and Pete's and hang out with Broad Street Hockey, of course, with Charlie and Bill. Well, with Bill, of course, because Charlie's in Vegas. But Kelly will be there as well, and our friends at Broad Street Hockey as well. We'll have the entire NHL draft covered for you. It is a completely free event. All you have to do is head on over to allphly.com and hit the RSVP link. It is at the Chicky and Pete's location on Packer Ave. Begins at 6. The draft begins, Brent, I believe at 7 tonight. Draft begins at 7 tonight. We'll have a live show. Charlie will be hanging out. Bill will be there. Kelly will be there. And all of our friends at Broad Street Hockey. I'm sure JP will be a part of it. Brenner will be producing it. So if you want to hang out with our Flyers team, please go do that. And head on over to allphly.com. And there, you can also become a diehard because, of course, you get your podcasts and your live shows every day, but you're going to get premium written content written by some of our amazing writers, including Charlie O'Connor, Kyle Newbeck, Zach Berman, John Foley, and Jim Salsbury, as we just talked to. You get 20% off all paid events. You can get some awesome merch, including a free shirt when you become a new diehard. And, of course, you can join the Discord. And speaking of the Flyers Discord doesn't stop. If you like talking with your friends, you like talking hockey, me and Jamie can't keep up anymore with it anymore. But if you like talking hockey, you like talking baseball, or you just want to talk some movies, music, video games, we've got it all for you. When you become a diehard, you can hang out at the PHLY Lounge. So head on over to allphly.com and get your diehard membership today.
Yeah. All right. Before we get out of here, Emil Jimenez last night, Tyler, his umpire scorecard is out. Overall consistency, 95%. Overall accuracy, 94%. Called ball accuracy, 97%. 82% called strike accuracy.
It's not good, Bob.
So, yes, robo-umps, please, or at least a challenge system.
How about this? It's not even remotely close to the worst one. You want to know what the worst one was?
Oh, God. Was Angel behind the... Well, no, Angel's gone.
Roberto Ortiz was behind the plate of the Angels-Tigers game last night.
Yeah.
It was an 85% overall accuracy.
Oof.
He was an 89% overall consistency.
Oof.
Did pretty well on calling balls, 94%.
That's good. Very
Called
happy for
strikes, 68%.
Oh,
He missed 13 pitches outside of the zone. Look at this.
Oh,
I'll try to show you guys. You're not going to be able to see it. It's gross.
Yeah, that's bad.
It's gross.
It's time to improve the game of baseball. And I'm with Jim that I do think it adds another element of drama to the
Mike
game.
Estabrook, 76%.
Like, imagine an NLCS and it's game 6 or 7 and that Zach Wheeler pitch happens and Rob
get it reviewed.
Played the cards right and has a challenge left and he taps on it. Imagine the energy in the stadium when like you feel like it's going to go your way.
So,
and, I think that adds a fun element.
I look back to the World Series last year, and granted, it was a game that was out of hand. The series was over. Like the Diamondbacks were cooked. Like they gave everything they could to get to the World Series, and I think they won Game 2. But the pitch that Josh Sborz threw to wrap up the World Series, it wasn't a strike. Now, granted, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that like the Diamondbacks challenge and they win because they would have won the challenge.
Sure.
They win the challenge and all of a sudden the Diamondbacks mount this rally and they win games 5, 6, and 7 and win the World Series. But you could conceivably get a World Series call get challenged and overturned.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it changed the complexity of the entire series. I think the Rangers were on they were a freight train.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to lose 3 straight games.
No.
But it would have been kind of funny. Would have been kind of funny to see like the glove get thrown up and then they're like, wait, timeout.
Yeah.
Be like dodgeball.
Yeah.
Stepped on the line.
So before we get out of here, the weekend preview matchup wise for the pitchers, tonight's going to be Tyler going for the Marlins up against Christopher Sanchez.
That's not a real person.
It doesn't sound like it. Then Saturday, a little 4:05 start for you. Fireworks again tonight, so that hence the 6:20 start again. Saturday, a little 4:05 action. Aaron Nola on the mound versus Roderick Munez. And then Sunday, the 1:10 start. I'll be there in person with the girls celebrating my wife's birthday. By the way, happy birthday, Addie.
Happy birthday, Addie.
Today. So we're going down Sunday. I get my boy Ranger versus Chinos for the Marlins. Chirinos. Churros. Yes.
Yanni Chirinos.
There you go. Sunday 1:10. So again, the Phillies have the advantage here. Can still win a series. At worst, you can split versus the Marlins, but that one did suck.
I do think a split is conceivable. You've got the better of every pitching matchup. You've got a relative unknown tonight in Kyle Tyler. Munoz has made a couple of starts this year. Chirinos has made 2. He's got a 2.70 ERA, but the whip is at 1.4. He's allowed, I think, 14 base runners over the course of 10 innings. Like, you have the pitching advantage in all 3 matchups this weekend. So to conceivably say, even with a bad lineup and a makeshift lineup for the next couple of days, you could conceivably say they win 2 out of 3, even if it's 3-2, 3-1, 2-1, whatever the case may be. You're putting a lot of pressure on your starters, but I would prefer this to saying your lineup stinks and you're running out Kyle Tyler, Roderick Munez, and Yanni Chirinos.
Yeah. So
no disrespect, guys.
Yeah. Go ahead and at worst split this coward 4-game series with the Marlins. Couple notes in Major League Baseball. I don't know if you caught what I said to Jim there. Major League Baseball shadily just gave the dugout access back to the strike zone. Now they're going to, so over the winter, we didn't even cover it in the offseason. And God,
I didn't even know it was a thing.
We were desperate for content in the offseason. So like if we had seen this story, so I think Major League Baseball kind of just swept this one under the rug, that they removed the strike zone from the tablets in the dugout so players could no longer see it. Now that it's back, they just came out of nowhere and put it back in, but they're implementing higher fines if the players use it to combat the umpires. So I don't know. That's going to be...
What a bunch of babies.
Right?
Umpires are so soft. It's ridiculous.
You have a tough job. We all admit it.
We get it.
You're human. But that is now back in Major League Baseball dugouts. So that's
but here's the thing. When a
isn't it?
manager comes out to the dugout, like when Rob Thompson got thrown out, what was it, last week? He got thrown out. When a manager comes out of the dugout, and you can basically see it in his eyes. This is a calculated decision.
Yeah.
You're throwing me out of this game.
Yeah, get me out of here.
I'm going to get up in your face, and I'm going to scream at you. And if you go word for word, I guarantee he says throw me out at some point.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to get a rallying cry for your guys.
We'll have to check John Boy Media in the lip reading.
But, like, there's too much autonomy, subjective autonomy for these umpires to be able to just go, my feelings are hurt, you're out of the game.
Yeah. A couple Major League Baseball notes. Aaron Judge is your AL vote leader for the All-Star game. Bryce Harper was the NL.
Yeah, Aaron Judge is pretty good. I don't know if
he's
I don't
good
know
at
if
baseball.
You know that. Yeah, he's pretty freaking good.
The Yankees are on a 4-game losing streak and just lost first place to the Baltimore Orioles.
Wait, I thought good teams couldn't beat that. You're not allowed to lose to bad teams.
You can't lose to the Orioles. Dave
no,
Roberts.
No, not lose to the Orioles. Lose to bad teams.
That's true.
Because who are the Yankees playing? It's
they were playing. I saw this.
Oh, it was the Jays.
Yeah,
and then they lost 2 to the Mets.
Yes, Grimace-led Mets. Dave Roberts does not want Shohei Ohtani participating in the home run derby.
Don't blame him. I don't want anybody playing in the home run derby.
Well, I love the home run derby, but a guy coming off Tommy John, Dave Roberts said, chill out with that. All right, now we're going to leave you with some names. It's a long weekend. We have 32 days until the trade deadline. A guy I love reading for The Athletic, Eno Saris, contributed to this piece on The Athletic.
Okay.
You asked Jim if the trade thing is going to be accelerated. I'm sure they'd love to. But here are some names I'm going to throw at you to mull over the weekend that Eno Saris points out could be moved by the deadline 32 days from now. He has his stars category. Number 1,
Luis Robert. Yeah, it's not a surprise. He's the hottest commodity on the trade market.
He's going to look great in Phillies pinstripes. Next on the list is Bo Bichette. Vlad Jr.
Dude, the Blue Jays are so weird. My buddy texted me last night. He goes, what do you think about George Springer getting moved? And I said, I go back and forth.
He's on fire right now.
I go back and forth every day of, are the Blue Jays going to trade everybody or are they going to trade nobody?
Well, on the top 9 names, 3 of them are Blue Jays.
But
Second,
I don't know how to predict. I don't know what they're going to do.
They're going to blow it up, I would think. Bo Bichette, Vlad Jr. Number 4 on the list is a guy we're going to see this weekend, Jazz Chisholm Jr. Okay. Number 5, they have Alex Bregman.
This is just position players, I assume?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because starting pitcher doesn't make sense. Alec Bregman, third baseman from the Astros. Pete Alonso, first baseman from the Mets. JD Martinez as a DH from the Mets. Kind of a surprise name. Must be contract related, as in they're going to lose him soon. Christian Walker from the Diamondbacks, number 9 on the list.
Surprise. I mean, I know that they've struggled this year, but their pitching's been eviscerated by injuries. Like, they're still hanging around.
Yeah.
Enough to, like,
with Corbin Carroll on a cold streak.
I just don't think you blow it up a year after going to the World Series because your pitching's hurt.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then number 9 on the list, Danny Jansen from the Blue Jays as a star.
Yeah, their catching situation's weird. Their whole team's weird.
And then here's your good regular players on the list. Randy Arozarena, number 1. I'd still have a lot of interest in him. Taylor Ward, number 2.
That's my pick.
Yeah, Taylor Ward and Brent Rooker are going to be...
I like Brent Rooker, too. I think he's a good ball player.
Yeah. So Brent Rooker's number 3. Luis Renigfo. Did I do that right? Renigfo. And then you have Andrew Vaughn, Lane Thomas, Yandy Diaz, Elias
Diaz isn't going anywhere.
No, I know. Jock Peterson, Jesse Winker, who I would have... He's another lefty, though, isn't he? Winker? I believe he is. Anyway, Josh Bell, Michael Conforto, Justin Turner, Sterling Marte, Mark Hanna.
So the entire Blue Jays lineup.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So those are some names to chew over on the weekend. Hope everybody out there has a great weekend. We really appreciate you spending your time with us. Good luck to the Flyers Nation in their draft tonight. I hope all you sickos are tuning in tonight to Chicky and Pete's. Charlie O'Connor's out in Vegas bringing you the latest, but it's going to be a fun party tonight. Tyler, hope you have a great weekend.
Yep, you as well.
I got a little concert to get to tonight with my wife. It's going to be a fun birthday weekend for her. But we appreciate each and every one of you. If you want to hit that thumbs up button on the way out of here and subscribe to the channel, we would appreciate that. And make sure you're telling your friends and family what we got going on here at PHLY. Have a great weekend, everyone. Go Phils.
We all silly like the mayor.